All right, welcome in. We're having a discussion about top 10 lists of NBA players.
He's not making that up. It would be, that's a segment that we can have in July, and it could probably carry the entire show.
Hey, Sip likes these kind of conversations. Steve Sipple from on3.com, Husker Online, and 93.7 The Ticket joins us. Good morning.
Morning, Sip.
Hi, Matt and Gary. Yeah, I do like those kind of conversations. In fact, I was interested in what you came up with.
Okay, so let me just give you a guy that's on the back end. Because I think for the most part, we agree on the first couple on the front end.
Yes.
Do you think Shaquille O'Neal is a top 10 all-time player?
Whoa. No,
Okay,
I don't.
okay.
I think he's a top 20 all-time player, probably. Now, this is, when you're doing it off the cuff, you don't have all the names in front of you.
Sure.
It's a little difficult.
We'll help you.
No, I've never thought of him that way. No.
When you think of this, because this is actually an interesting conversation, not just an NBA type deal. This is like every list type deal. Do you look at the entirety of the career, or do you look at like at peak?
God, that's a good question. I mean, can't you just? I try to almost meld all of it.
Okay.
I just try to meld all of it in my mind and not have too many separators.
So,
yeah.
Where would Larry Bird then fall in your?
I can't get him in the top 10, probably.
Okay.
I'd like to.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite players. I just can't get him in there.
It's a little too much competition now, right? I mean, the impact on the game is incredibly high, but if we're looking at the game in the lens that we look through now, I just think that there are just too many bigger and more athletic players than him, despite the fact he's top 15. No one's disputing that.
I think you can. I don't know, Matt. I mean,
Okay.
if you sit down and start typing them out, it's tough to fit the top 15. You might have to shoehorn him in the top 15. I love him. I don't know. He's arguably my favorite player at one point. But it's a really. I love the discussion. I love this sort of discussion, particularly with the NBA, because it is so challenging.
It is.
And it's just, when you talk about the top 15 guys ever, I mean, first of all, you're just leaving incredible players out, So anyway,
Yes.
I do this a lot with my grandson, and it's hard because everybody's a little different the way they look at it.
They are because there are a little bit old schooler NBA people that will say, "Hey, what about Bird winning 3 straight MVPs and Wilt and Bill did that and he's got 5 rings?" But yes, I know these are discussions like, okay, so sticking with this and not just basketball, do we really enjoy the GOAT discussions like we've had in the NBA and we've had in the NFL ad nauseum now for a few years?
I think they were. There was a time when they were pretty good discussions and they were hot and it was kind of fun, but no, it's passé. It's over.
Do you think we've related our GOAT opinions too much to our personalities? That now to like be a LeBron guy or to be a Jordan guy or to be a Brady guy or to be a Mahomes guy, it might say too much about someone, or we think it says something about someone?
No, I don't. That's a good question. No, I think it's largely an age discussion.
Sure.
I mean, I just feel like when I do the GOAT discussion with LeBron and Michael, it's always, people my age, they're adamant that it's Jordan, and people out, and my grandson Alex, who's 19, he's adamant. He's incredibly eloquent in making the case for LeBron, but I don't see it. Like he'll never swing, and I think I often think it cuts along. It's an age. It just depends on what your age is.
Yeah, like last night. So LeBron, you wouldn't know he was 40 last night. Runs the floor and takes out his anger on Mark Williams by yamming it over him. And you're like, damn, that guy's 40. Could Jordan do that as 40? Yeah, these discussions are fun when we're sitting around a bar, but sometimes they just they make your head.
Yeah.
So does the discourse on Fred Hoiberg after a night like last night exhaust you as well? Because every time Nebraska loses a game like that, I get the Tim Miles guys that hop into my discussion on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't. It's sort of
Isn't it the life of a Nebraska basketball fan as last night?
This is I don't know. It's sort of uncomfortable. Fred's so popular, and I think he's doing a pretty good job, but there's a bottom line element to it that I look at it, and I can be really irrational about stuff like this. I'm not as accepting of the fact that there's he hasn't had an NCAA tournament win in 6 seasons. And now it's looking like it might go 7. I guess it's not so much a commentary on Fred with me. It's not. It's a commentary on Nebraska and Nebraska fans' incredible acceptance level. I'm always taken aback by how accepting the fans and media are of abject mediocrity. I mean, it's just amazing to me. Like if he gets to 7 years or 6 years without an NCAA tournament win, most coaches would never make it that far. I mean, especially with his overall record, they just don't. And the thing I say over and over is, if I were an agent, I would do all I can to get the Nebraska job. It is the best job in college basketball by far. They will build a statue if you win one tournament game, which is nothing really. I mean, it's really nothing. But that's where we're at. I think it's an oddity when it comes to sports discussions. How low the expectations are. I mean, they are incredibly low here.
So I've had this discussion before, Sip, about relative success and how you can't really, it's hard to judge Fred on relative success because relatively Nebraska has not been successful at basketball. So when, accomplishing what he's accomplished, he's already accomplished a lot relatively, right? But my question to you is, in your mind, what should year in and year out expectations of the program then be?
I mean, if you're here for 6 years as a head coach, I think you should be in the NCAA tournament half the time and have a few wins. But it's escaped everybody. I don't know how, but kind of there's no good explanation for it, except they haven't had the right coach, and so it's been elusive that way. I think Fred, like I said, I hate this discussion because I always feel like I'm attacking Fred. I'm not. I think he's done it. I wouldn't fire him. I mean, come on. I think they're going to make the tournament. I'm pretty sure they're going to make the tournament.
Yeah.
And they have a shot to win. So this is not really a Fred discussion. It's more to me of a expectation discussion.
And it's a discussion on a morning after they lost to a program that doesn't care about men's basketball, and last night's game was played in a cave, and the team that got their ass kicked is someone who is from a school that people care about basketball, and they're a tortured fan base. That also does not help the discourse this morning. And then on top of that, the manner that game played out.
Yeah, you know what? All of that's true. I have a more global view of it. I think it's hard for some people to grasp, but that bothers me. All that bothers me, of course. But it bothers me more that, like, I was at Planet Fitness. You don't have to say which one. Last tip-off, I missed the first 12 minutes of game time. I was just wrapping up. And it's like when I'm out, how many people pay attention. It wasn't on the monitors. Nobody was asking for it to be on the monitors. That's what I'm talking about. I've been to, where we go for wings during games. There's nobody. It's not. And I'm always like, I guess that's okay. I guess that's okay with the AD. I guess that's okay with everybody. That nobody really is in the arena's full, but how much of that is undying loyalty to the program, and versus just it's a fun atmosphere. It's a fun time to go down to that area.
Sipple, are you saying that Troy Dannon should be concerned because people don't want the game on your local Planet Fitness?
No, I think any AD, just any isn't a Dan and
No.
Gilbert. It's not. It's an open global Nebraska basketball discussion. The expectation level to me is incredibly low, and the level of interest to me is it's just if they get the tournament, we're interested, but that's about it. I mean,
Okay. I'm gonna give you a little. You made an interesting point because Miles was the head coach, and I was with some friends, and they were playing on the road, and we were driving back from Lincoln. We had to go to Lincoln to do something, and we stopped in Ashland at Casey's East Side Saloon. And you'd think Nebraska basketball is on the road tonight. They're gonna have the game on. They didn't have the game on. And we asked for them to put the game on, and the person behind the bar said, "Yeah, no problem." But I'm like, okay, if Nebraska basketball is a big thing, then this, right off of 6, they're in Ashland, they've got the game on. That's don't that's a good point. Like, in this town, when Creighton is playing, the game's on TV. Nebraska
yeah,
basketball needs to be on TV where everybody knows, oh yeah, they're playing tonight. I don't care if it's Penn State, I don't care if it's Northwestern, whether it's in Lincoln or on the road. So they have the game on for the Patriots. This place didn't, and they had Husker flags up, which I thought was kind of
my guess is. I mean, my guess is if I went around the gym and asked people like if you even know Nebraska's playing, most of them wouldn't even know. There's a 5:30 kickoff, which is a little weird too. No, that's what it is. Like I said, I just want to emphasize. So this isn't really a Hoiberg discussion. Not that I, it's not a Dan discussion. Okay. Can I put it to you this way?
Sure.
It goes back 52 years. Okay, I'm talking 52 years of following. All right, I've been following Nebraska basketball closely, more intently than football, for 52 years.
There's a lot of people like you, Sip, which is interesting.
Yeah, they haven't won an NCAA tournament game. They rarely get to the tournament. Okay, it's 52 years of this. It's crazy if you think about it. It's crazy that I even care at this point. I mean, it's ludicrous if you think about if you frame it up that way. It's 52 years of thinking, okay, this is the year. Oh, come on, man. I mean, what holds it back? It's
Yeah, that was going to be my question, Sip. What do you think holds it back? Why do you think it's been this long?
Damn Fred Hare and Stu Lance.
I don't know. I don't. Here's okay. You know what my answer is?
Sure.
This is the most frustrating thing about it. Nothing holds it back. Nothing. There should be nothing. What's the excuse? There's none.
I think the two excuses would be the lack of, just traditional success and the fact that it also isn't a basketball school. Basketball will never be the top sport at Nebraska. It'll always be football. And so I think the outlook of that is a negativity toward Nebraska basketball.
How can FAU make the Final Four?
Okay. No one's pushing back there.
How can San Diego State?
Yeah.
Really, do they got more? They got more than Nebraska. I mean, is that? Come on. I mean, you can go up and down the lineup. Just look.
Sure.
Look at teams that won first round.
Sure. No, hell. I mean, you're talking to a guy who rooted for Northwestern basketball. Like I know what you're talking about in that regard of the frustration of not being able to even make the tournament, let alone to win the game. But
there's
but
nothing holding back Nebraska. There's nothing.
So it's just a string of bad hires then, or
well, I haven't got the right guy. That's probably as good as I can do.
Yeah, we had our moment with Danny. But we'll see you at the tailgate in shorts on Monday night against Michigan. Let's shift to football. As we're all trying to get to understand what the SEC and the Big Ten wants in terms of straight seeding playoff auto bids. Is that good for Nebraska?
The way are you talking about the 4 autos in the Big Ten?
Yes.
4 autos in the SEC, 2 ACC. Yeah, it's good for Nebraska. It's good for the Big Ten. It's good for the SEC. Is it good for everybody? I mean, my take is no. I don't like the way it's trending. I don't like the way the SEC and the Big Ten holds a gun to everybody like they did last year at this time and said, hey, we'll break off if you don't go along with us. Do I think that's healthy for the globally for college football? No, I don't think it is at all. It's unappealing to to a lot of people. And I'm starting to see like people like Michael Wilbon speak out against it. I completely agree with where they're coming from. I feel it feels really odd to me, the artificial nature of the seeding where it's pre-seeded, where I would think you'd want to let a season play out before you determine this particular conference is going to have 4 seats. This other conference is going to have 4 seats. This other conference is going to have 2. What, really? We're doing this in advance? No, nothing. It's all. It's off-putting, but I guess people always say to me, just go with it. Fans seem to like it, so not all though. And but to answer your question, yeah, it's good for Nebraska. I mean, of course it's good. If you're in the Big Ten and the SEC, everything's great. So that's kind of where that is.
So Matt Rule had this hour-long discussion with Josh Pate. Had that interview, and they talked about how, as of right now, that the NFL and the college football are very, very different, right? But I think, and I agree with them, they both made incredible points about the differences between the two. But where we're trending, I think it's safe to say that we're going to get at some point, now it's not going to be next year or the year after that, but we're going to get very, very close to that NFL model of 40 teams, 2 divisions, whatever it may be. Is that safe first off, is that safe enough to say, do you think? Or do you think it's going to be drastically different?
Hard to say. I hope it's wrong. And I know that's what Matt Rule talked about. I hope he's wrong. I mean, I've been hearing people say that like Frost said that. I mean, I vividly remember Frost coming off the podium at Big Ten Media Days. It must have been 2021. And taking a chaw out of his mouth and throwing it and saying that, hey man, this is going to 40 or 50. And maybe there's going to be some relegation where you can play your way in, and this is where it's going. So that was 4 years ago. The question I would have, and the question I had for Frost is, okay, who you kicking out there?
Yeah.
Who's not going to make it? If it's 40, who's not in? Who's not in? I mean, because now it sounds kind of good when you just say it like, yeah, the top 40. Okay. All right. There's going to be some big time programs left out of that.
Yeah.
So, no, none of it sounds appealing to me, but I like college football. Hell, I liked it in 1985. I thought it was great. I don't even know what it looked. I don't even know what to say about it.
I think, though, Steve, that part of the appeal of college football was that it was different than the NFL, that it was a different product.
Because we had regionalization.
Exactly. Yeah. So now, how much of a negative factor do you think that it is just not going to be different, or it's trending toward not being different at all? And do you think it'll have a negative impact, or is it football's football? People are still going to watch it on Saturdays.
That's I think, I mean, wouldn't the ratings tell you right now that people are still largely entertained?
Yes.
And that's not a problem. I'd say it's not a problem in this moment. And I hope that, God, for our jobs, for our livelihoods.
I hope you're right.
I hope it stays that way. I hope there's tolerance. I hope it doesn't change too much. I don't. It's really the conversations are in some ways interesting, in some ways loathsome. Because the loathsome part is just the pure. It's just so money oriented. It's just everything is about money. I'd like things. It just every discussion you have about college football this time of year is about money. It's all money driven, and who can, and that's, I don't know. To me, that gets a little old.
It's great.
We don't talk about the competition much until August 31st.
That is true. That bugs me like you. Greed and favoritism. We'll get you out of here. Our guest who loved college football back in 1985 and has been wondering for 52 years about Nebraska basketball. E.J. Barthel, how serious was Penn State and Texas's interest?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, if they, if Houston, or what's it called? Let's just say the Houston newspaper reports that there was a discussion. I'm confident there was a discussion on the Penn State site. There's no doubt in my mind there was some sort of discussion, and so I'd say there was some degree of seriousness to it, and I would totally understand. Barthel's been at Penn State. He's worked for Franklin, so that all makes sense. In fact, the whole picture makes sense to me that he might be interested in two programs that are in everybody's top 5. Two programs that have great chances to win it all next year. If he was interested, I would totally understand that. I think it's great that he's back here. I think he's this will be a 6th year with Matt Rule. If you trust Matt Rule, then then you would say it's probably good that Barthel's back. Matt knows him very well. And I personally think he's done a pretty good job here. And I want to see what Ives looks like now. I want to see what Jamarian Parker looks like now. But I like the work he's done in developing Emmett Johnson. I liked where they were going with Dante Dowdell. Then the rug got pulled out from under him by a team that came in with a lot of money and kind of probably a desperate move. So yeah, I'm glad he's back. I think he deserves to be back.
All right, Sip, we appreciate it. Thank you very much for accommodating us. We always enjoy the conversation.
Yeah, it's a great one. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Steve.
Hey, what's your what's your routine when you go to Planet Fitness? Like, what do you start on?
What's your split?
I'm 58.
So
I just try to muddle through. But it just becomes at 58 very machine oriented.
Okay.
They have the machines, and it gets the free weight thing.
Hey, that ain't a 58-year-old thing. I use machines a lot too. They're a great product.
Yeah, and I'm a big proponent of Planet Fitness. I think it's a wonderful little spot in this world, and the whole. I've been there. I've been there 2 years. I've never had one issue.
You still hitting the heavy bag? You still hitting the heavy bag?
No, I can't. Shoulders are bad.
That's too bad.
So no, everything has to kind of revolve around bad shoulders.
Okay. Well, maybe one day we'll see you there.
That would be wonderful.
That would be interesting. Sip, thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye.